What's up, everybody? A few days ago I uploaded my Sega CD collection video, and I waited a few days to do my Saturn collection video now because I was having some issues with my channel, but I think everything's cleared up, so I'm going to go ahead and do that for you. And there's a few more games in my Saturn collection than there are in my Sega CD, so I'm going to try to go through it a little bit quicker. Again, like I mentioned with the Sega CD one, this isn't a review of every game or price guide or anything. It's just me going over my collection because recently I got every game that I personally wanted for both Sega Saturn and Sega CD. And I appreciate you guys giving me all your opinions and games I should check out. Snatcher, of course, was, as a lot of people said, the gaping hole in my Sega CD collection. I'm not a huge text-based adventure, kind of person, but if I happen to find that game for fairly cheap, I'll pick it up. I don't want to pay, the price that's going for a game that I'm not really, looking to play, but I've heard, obviously good things. The story's supposed to be really decent, so at some point I will probably grab Snatcher to at least give it a try. So thank you guys very much, and again, if you happen to see a game, you're like, why the hell don't you have that game on Saturn? Go ahead and let me know. First up is a couple shooters, actually. We have Galactic Attack, and this one's really cool. I really like not draw distance, but there's backgrounds really far in the distance, and you have a lot of layers of things happening, but a lot of detail spent to the background designs. Instead of just, some trees with, maybe a couple little buildings or something. There's a lot of detail to it, so I definitely recommend Galactic Attack for shoot 'em up fans. Next we have sort of a unique one. It's called In the Hunt, and this is actually a submarine-based, you can see the sub on the front, a submarine-based shooter game. Very cool. I had never really seen, we always expect either airplanes or spaceships or something like that, or person flying in the air. There's a lot of shoot 'em ups that are just a random person shooting shit out of their hands flying in the air. But submarine shoot 'em up was something that when I saw, I was like, wow, I gotta try that. It's just a little bit different. It's not the same thing like all the other ones. So pretty cool, unique shoot 'em up. Next we have Clockwork Knight and Clockwork Knight 2. I have come across copies of Clockwork Knight over the years at Goodwill, and one at a garage sale, and at the flea market. And I bought mine from actually another video game collector. So I've seen a lot of copies. I've actually owned quite a few copies of it. So this one's not hard to come by. Clockwork Knight 2, though, is a little bit harder to find. I have never actually found a copy in the wild, or at least a complete copy. I think we had a disc at one time at the flea market. But so Clockwork Knight 2 is a little bit more scarce. The Clockwork Knight games are decent platformers, but Earthworm Jim 2 is an awesome one, and it took me 3 times to get a good condition copy of this. The first time, I think the disc was messed up. Another time, the manual had a bunch of writing in it, and I'm really picky when it comes to that kind of shit. But it's a great game, and the Saturn version is a little bit harder to find. And we have 3 Dirty Dwarves. We actually found a copy of this, a non-complete copy, in the game barn. I think it was on the second trip or so, and the disc was really bad. It was all scratched up, and some people were like, oh, you still should have got it, shouldn't have passed up on it because it's a harder game to find. But I was like, I'm looking for a good condition copy, which not too long right after that I picked one up. Very interesting game. I love the cover art on it. It's wearing different sports uniforms, and he's a shotgun, and this guy has baseballs in a backpack. Very interesting game, up to 3 players, so if you're looking for a multiplayer Saturn game. Here we have Astal, another platformer. Very pretty game, awesome graphics, and one weird thing about this one, no name on the side spine, and every copy I've seen has that. I thought maybe at first when I first got the game, I'm like, is it a misprint? Is it missing it? But the other copies I saw also don't have it, so I don't know if there are any copies of Astal, at least in North America, that have the printing on the sides. But very cool game. Another one that's a little harder to find. Here we have Quake, which is not really that hard to find or expensive. I really don't know what really to say about Quake. If you don't know what Quake is, first-person shooter, nasty monsters, good game. Here we have The Horde, another badass title. I love not title, another badass cover art to this one. See these little gremlin dudes? And they're basically, looks like they're molesting and destroying a cow in the background. But it has some strategy elements to this game. I don't know if you can see the little screenshots on the back there. But not really expensive. Not terribly hard to find either. Only one player though. And here we have, I actually really like this game, Mr. Bones. I got this a few years ago around Halloween. And I've mentioned in other videos, and obviously if you know me, I'm a big Halloween fan, horror fan, whatever. So any game where you're a skeleton that plays guitar, you know, that's pretty damn cool. A platformer game. And that one's, I would say, uncommon. You know, not in the $100 range or anything like that, but definitely a little bit more uncommon. Power Slave. This is a game that I got from a fellow YouTuber, first-person shooter. And I said I wasn't going to do like, oh, uncommon, rarity kind of guide, but I guess I am. So this one is fairly common. Duke Nukem 3D. Everyone knows who Duke Nukem is. First-person shooter. And I don't remember where I got this. Oh, wait, I'm totally lying. I got this from a YouTuber also. About, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago, I think I grabbed this one. And we have, this is probably one of the cheapest Sega Saturn games that I own, Gin War, or Gin War, and this is another first-person shooter, and I actually just got this one not very long ago at all, within the last few months, like not too long before I left for tour, but a very cheap one. And got to grab some more off the shelf back here. We're getting into some more of my more favorite games on the system very soon. We have another shoot 'em up, Darius Gaiden. Awesome, huge, crazy, nasty fish boss monsters in here. Really bright colors. Lots of contrast between like colors of like the backgrounds, the sky, the enemies. Very, very cool shoot 'em up game. And this one has, at least my case has a soft plastic backing to it. Which I'm going to possibly guess it was a replacement, but I actually don't know if this originally came with that like softer, cheaper plastic in there. And then we have, whoa, almost knocked some shit on the floor. Here we have The Mansion of Hidden Souls. There's a version of this on the Sega CD also, which I own. The graphics are very different between the two. It's a FMV game, full motion video, where you don't fully control the character's movements. Very puzzle-based, but pretty inexpensive. Here we have Creature Shock Special Edition, with a dead ant in the case, apparently. This version of the game has extra creatures added to it, and also some flying levels. I think I picked this one up sealed for like 20 bucks. I absolutely love this game just for its uniqueness. This is Enemy Zero. And it's a first-person game, but it's not, it's more like RPG-ish, I guess. You don't see the enemies, you hear them. And I remember reading, but I might get this a little wrong, that the developer of the game had in mind gameplay for someone that maybe was blind, that could still play the game and just listen for the enemies. So I thought that was really, really awesome. And this game is a little bit more expensive and harder to find, but if you're a horror games fan, I highly recommend checking it out just for the uniqueness purpose alone. And then a Atlas title, another horror related one. This is Lunacy. Also not very cheap game to pick up, but very, very cool. We have, I said we were getting some more of my favorite games, and that's because there was some horror titles here. We have D, which also came out on the PlayStation 1, another full-motion video game. D also had a sequel called D2 that came out on the Dreamcast. This is The House of the Dead, which has become very expensive. When I purchased it, it was around like 60 bucks, and that was many years ago. And at that time, I was like, oh my god, $60 for a House of the Dead game? But now it's going all the way up for around like 120 bucks or so. This is the only home console version of the original House of the Dead that came out in North America. There is a PC version also, but that's most likely why the price of this is so expensive, because they never ported it to any other home consoles, unlike, you know, some of the later House of the Dead games. So very, very cool. I mean, everyone knows House of the Dead, arcade classic, but crazy that this is now a $100 plus game. Now we're going to get into the RPGs I own on the Saturn. Here is The Legend of Oasis, which is an action RPG. It is the prequel to Beyond Oasis. Here is Dark Savior. One of my least favorite RPGs on the Saturn. Has a really weird battle system where you go in and do these one-on-one battles. But yeah, I just didn't really get into this title. Here is Mystaria, The Realms of Lore, which actually has another title as well called Blazing Heroes. The game is exactly the same, and at least a few years ago there really didn't seem to be a price difference between the two for the most part. I mean, maybe a few bucks more or something like that, but and I never really found out why there was a difference in the titles. I don't know if when Blazing Heroes came out and then they had to change it over to Mystaria for copyright issues or something like that, but I own the Mystaria version. And now we're going to get into some of the more expensive ones. Here is Guardian Heroes. This is side-scrolling RPG. If you played Code of Princess on the 3DS, this is sort of the style of that game is. Very, very good. Awesome multiplayer game. You could actually play up to 6 players on this game. I highly, highly recommend Guardian Heroes. This is a really good game. Albert Odyssey, Legend of Aldian, a Working Designs published title and developed by Sunsoft. I really like the enemy and monster character designs, really detailed. Definitely would recommend this for RPG fans on the Saturn. Here we have a stack of some Shining games. We have Shining Wisdom, which gave you the chance to win $10,000 right there on the cover. This was a Working Designs title as well. And I was thinking when I was looking at this, if you look, that chick has quite the bit of cleavage showing there, some big boobs and a lot of skin. And I realized that today, on Japanese RPGs like Hyperdimension Neptunia and stuff, on the actual cover that's like on the store shelves, they tend to hide the boobs now. You don't quite get that big of cleavage right on the cover of the game. Maybe they're trying to be a little less perverted these days. Then we have Shining Force 3, really, really good title. And Shining the Holy Ark, which I didn't put enough time into this game to really give like an honest opinion about it, but I wasn't as drawn in as some of the other Shining titles. And now we're down to the cream of the crop for some of these. Magic Knight Rayearth, very cool game. I've talked to people over the years. Some people did not really enjoy this at all. Some of them love it. One thing to point out is there's a anime called Tsubasa that my wife is really into. They did mangas also for it. And there is a character that's right on the cover. It's like a little fat-looking rabbit kind of creature that is also in Tsubasa. When I first saw this game, that was what drew me to it. I was like, hey, I know that little character. So if you're a fan of that anime, you'll recognize it, obviously. And we have Dragon Force, which we found a copy of this also in the Game Barn. And it was a complete copy, but it had some water damage. But even like a water damaged copy, I think ended up selling for like $75, $70, somewhere around like that. But very, very cool game. Tons of enemies on the battlefield. Awesome animation. And here's the Panzer games in less rare to very rare order. Panzer Dragoon, fun shooter style game. Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei. And Panzer Dragoon Saga, which if you're a Saturn fan, you obviously probably know this title. I think the most expensive Saturn game I own by far, and I got this a long, long time ago for very cheap. I want to say I got this even before I was back on YouTube, possibly. And when I say very cheap, I mean like I spent like $110 on it, and that was really cheap for what it goes for now. But this game, honestly, has been expensive forever, pretty much. I don't really ever remember it being, a very, very cheap game. And then the last two to show off are a couple of European, some PAL Saturn titles. I actually got this one while over in Europe on my first trip to Europe, and it is Parodius. Super crazy shoot-'em-up game. You can see there's like a giant half-naked dancing girl enemy. You have a cat-faced blimp up here. I think my camera, the lighting and my camera's starting to screw up, so luckily I'm about done here, but really interesting shoot-'em-up game. And there's other Parodius titles. They're a joke series on the Gradius games. And I know there's some in Europe that also came out that I want for Game Boy, Nintendo, and Super Nintendo, all ones that I'm trying to get. And then lastly, another very rare, very expensive Saturn game, KO2 Flying Squadron, KO Flying Squadron 2. I have the first one on Sega CD, and the second one did not come out in North America. And this was another hard one to track down, and I was in communication with the owner of this for, I don't know, about 5 or 6 emails back and forth, because I really wanted to make sure that I got, for the price I was paying, a decent copy. The only issues with it is on the side spine with the PAL games. It's like an exposed piece of cardboard, so I don't even know if you can tell, but there's like a little wrinkle there and there in it. But no rips, no tears, nothing coming apart. So very happy to have that in the collection. And that's it. Those are all of my Saturn games. And like I mentioned with the Sega CD, who knows, maybe I will come across a game that I passed up in the past, and I was like, maybe I'll give it a try now, like I'm going to probably do a Snatcher. There is one game called Skeleton Warriors, yeah. And that is on the PlayStation and Sega Saturn. And I was going to get the PlayStation version, but now I'm kind of thinking, I own so many PlayStation versions, it would be kind of cool to just add it to my Saturn collection, because these cases, since they're so big, they just look really cool, going across an entire shelf. So I wouldn't mind adding one more to that. So Skeleton Warriors I might get on the Sega Saturn. But that is it. Thank you for watching. Let me know what's your favorite Saturn game, what's your opinions on the Saturn library, that kind of stuff. And please thumbs up the video as always. I always appreciate that, guys. And I will talk to you later. New episode of Video Game Sellers will be up tomorrow, so very excited for that. Hope you all enjoyed. We had fun doing it. And that's it. Peace!